What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Johnny Mack here. Just wanted to give you a heads up that if you are looking for a community that is open to discussion as far as mentorship, conservation, the wild, becoming a better person, and all of that, there is a group for you on Facebook, and it is called Soul Seekers. Soul Seekers, we are all about making ourselves a better person. We're all about making sure hunting lasts for generations to come and encouraging people to get plugged in. Whether you are someone who has something to give or someone who needs to soak it up like a sponge, this is a community for you, and I strongly encourage you that if you're on Facebook to join Soul Seekers, and if you're not on Facebook, hop on there just for that group. It is only going to be as powerful as we all make it. And so just remember that life happens for you, it doesn't happen to you, and that you can't outgive good. You can't outgive good, people. I want you to understand that, and I want you to believe it, because when we believe that and we lead with courage and we lead with intention, lives are changed, lives are transformed, just like on this podcast, transformation through primal adventure. Be blessed. Enjoy this episode. Talk soon. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Through this podcast, I'm on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship as conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters, both new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The Soulful Hunter podcast is also proudly presented by the Crazy Elk Company. Based out of the state of Washington with products made in America, they are providing solutions with gear to problems you didn't even know you had. Their tag wallet is one of those solutions, and I had the pleasure of using it on all of my hunts this last year, and it is now a mainstay in my kill kit. The tag wallet is a water-resistant zippered pouch that comes with its own reusable zip ties to safely and securely store your notch tag for quick and easy access. For more information, go to crazyelkcompany.com and use the code SOULFUL with a capital S to save 20% at checkout. Be blessed, everyone, and as always, stay soulful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and tonight I am joined by the man of mystery himself behind Initial Ascent backpacks out of Idaho, Joe Elliston, and I have known Joe for a little over a year now, and this is the first time I've gotten to lock him down on a podcast, not only to hear his story and hear his journey, but he stands for freedom. He's a patriot. He knows what he believes in, and he has built his house on a foundation that is going to stand through the test of time and not building it on sand. And not only does he do that with his own faith, with his own life, he does it with his business as well, and we're going to get into that today. So, Joe, thank you so much for joining me for an episode.
Man, Johnny, I'm looking forward to it, bud. You know, we've talked, as you said, a few times, and I think we've gotten to know each other a little bit. But one thing I do know for sure is I've enjoyed listening to all your podcasts, and I enjoy the Soulful Seekers, show you got going on Carbon TV. So I feel like I probably know you better than you know me. But this will be good. This will be a great opportunity to get to know each other a bit. So looking forward to it as well.
I love it. I appreciate it. Well, Joe, just for a little background for all the listeners, obviously I introduced you as a part owner of Initial Ascent Backpacks, but what do you do in your day job? Because it seems like everyone within the hunting industry, they have this like passion project, but everyone also has full-time jobs and they are still family men and all these other things. So what's your story? What's the background on you?
Yeah, no, I mean, you're spot on. I think it's, so my background, I've been in, I guess you could say corporate America. Although I would say it's more blue collar corporate America. Really for the last 25 years, I've worked with some of the biggest brands within the construction industry. I've worked with DeWalt, I've worked with Black & Decker, I've worked with, Kwikset, Weiser, Baldwin, Stanley, National. So I've been tied in the manufacturing side. My current role within the organization, I've been there 25 years, is director of sales, and I've enjoyed that role for since about 2009. I bounced all over early on with the organization. I was hired in Kansas, and then I was in Vegas. Went from Vegas to Ohio back to Vegas, and then I moved up here in 2004. So, my background, I've had a lot of different roles within corporate America, and probably one of the best parts about all of it as I look back on these last 25 years, and it really has to do with I have had the opportunity to work with some of the most talented people. I firmly believe leadership in a lot of ways is surrounding yourself with people that are better than you are, you know? And I've had a chance to work with some just exceptionally talented, bright people and be a part of some amazing things, to be a part of the relaunch of DeWalt back in the 90s. And to kind of learn the power of a brand and what you can do, with the right strategy put behind it. So that was exciting times. The Black and Decker brand itself, another extremely powerful brand. Broke my heart when that was dissolved. When Stanley bought Black and Decker in 2000, I guess it was 2009. That was a tough pill just because I had a lot of passion tied to that brand. But yeah, I've gotten to be a part of that and do a lot of different roles that have stretched me and really exposed me to all different aspects of the business, whether that's supply chain, whether that's manufacturing, new products, certainly sales and marketing. And it's been a fun 25 years. I've learned a lot, and I think that's probably one of the best aspects of it is the people I've been had the opportunity to work with, but then just having the ability to learn and put myself out there. So that
That
gives you a little bit of background on the last 25 years, Reader's Digest version.
I love it. You know what absolutely blows me away is not many people use this line, and so I really admire you. And it's not something that like rolls off of my tongue, but the whole saying is, if you are the smartest man in a room, you're in the wrong room. And you pretty much
Yep.
quoted that by saying, being around people that are better than you and are going to challenge you and sharpen you. And that just goes to show the character that you hold and the standard in which you hold, because not many people look at life that way. And so this, I'm not trying to like blow smoke up your can or any of that, but there's a lot to be said that if that's how you hold your life and that is the standard that you hold, that's a great place to go and a great place to be. And I can imagine that you have some very nuggets of gold to be shared today in this podcast, because the people that I have come across in education and all over this world, not many people think like that. I found that it's more of a military mindset and
Yeah.
military leadership mindset. You always
Yeah.
hear like people with
Yeah.
Navy SEAL experience or Army Rangers or whatever. Those are the ones that are thinking like that. And so where'd you come up with this standard for your life?
Say that again, Johnny. You broke up. Sorry,
Oh,
bud. I lost you.
oh man, I apologize. Hopefully that's not on my end. Um, where did you come up with a standard for your life of where you hold yourself accountable and want
Hmm.
to always challenge yourself into different avenues of who you surround yourself with?
I can't say there's a point in time. I think it's, I'm going to be 51 here the beginning of the year. And, I think just over time, you have life experiences and you learn some things. And, it's interesting. One of my oldest boys going through a difficult thing right now. He started a landscape company and he's dealing with a tough situation where a subcontractor didn't follow through. But this guy really kind of brought him in quick and put his arm around him. And I kept kind of questioning, okay, why? As to trying to help kind of understand. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that are there to help you, not hurt you. And I think that's just life lessons over the years. But I've done enough leadership trainings to learn. Man, I am not the sharpest tool in the shed. But one thing I can do, is and I'm that guy. If I'm in a room in a meeting, I'm the guy that's asking, 20 questions, 30 questions.
Yeah.
Probably drives Dennis nuts when we get on conference calls. Because that's just my DNA, man. I ask a lot of questions because I want to learn. And I think it's just over time I've learned to say, you know what? I don't know the answer, but this
Mm.
person does. I'm going to have them a part of this, or this person does. We need to bring them into it.
Yes.
And the one thing I've learned is when you surround yourself with people that are talented and it's not about you, then you are going to succeed and they're going to succeed and everybody wins. And that's, to me, that's the gratitude of it. Right. So,
Man,
so
that
I think it's life experiences,
that's
man.
that's powerful. You know, there's the saying that we are the sum of the people that we surround ourselves with, right? And so, being a health
Yes.
teacher and a physical education teacher, I always talk about either you are building people up or you're tearing them down. Because there's no in
Right.
between. Either you are speaking life or you are speaking death. It says in the Bible that the tongue is sharper than a two-edged sword, you know, to bring life or death. And so whatever we do, whatever we say, however we are, and when we show up in this world, we have that power. And so what do we want to create in our existence, in our environment, in our community? And if we can concrete that idea, that foundation, that mindset, man, the world is our oyster and anything is truly possible. And this is the American dream. And it's like, let's go, baby. Let's do this. Let's go. Let's
Absolutely.
go change the world and make it a better place and be the change we want to see in the world. So,
Yeah. And I mean, I agree with you 100%. I just think, there are those people that are kind of vampires, right? They suck the life out of you. And I've just gotten to a point in who I am that I'm very comfortable in my own skin. Hey, I'll love on those people, but you know what? I'm going to move on. I'm going to get around people that are going to be powerful, uplifting. I want to enjoy the day. I don't want to regret, or I don't want to, look back as to, wasting time. So, I'm going to get around those people. That's my goal, at least.
yeah, life is now, man. We don't have tomorrow. That's why they call today the present because it's a gift and we don't have time to waste. We got to get after it. Speaking of getting after it, Joe,
Yeah, absolutely.
you are a co-owner or part owner of a backpack company in the hunting world. And before we even get into that, what is your hunting background? So like were you raised a hunter? Was it something you picked up in high school and college or buddies invited you out? But what is your background and what caused you to fall in love with it as much as you have in order to even become a part of the industry?
Yeah, so I would say I grew up hunting, but not big game. So I'm originally from Kansas. I'm a flatlander, and back in Kansas, and I loved your episode recently on the waterfowl hunting. I'm a waterfowler. I grew up, shooting ducks, and fell in love with that at an early age. My dad was extremely active hunting when he was younger. I think he hunted in just about every continent, across the world. I mean, I've got up on my wall right here, just looking at it. I've got a hunter's heart of beast. There's less than 400 of them left in the world
Wow.
that he shot probably 70, 60 years ago. And so hunting has always been a part of my life. Conservation has been a part of it. And, safety has been a part of it, not only gun safety, but personal safety within the house. So I've grown up around it, but like I said, it was mostly waterfowl hunting and upland game. I did a lot of quail hunting. And then, I really didn't get into big game hunting until I moved to Idaho. I remember my first deer I shot out here, I was hunting with a buddy of mine, and he was from Logan, Utah, and Logan's mountains are steep. So for him to take me back in the backcountry on my first, mule deer hunt, we hiked in, which was, at the time it seemed like it was 20 miles, but it was probably two, because I had never done it before. And, we get back in there and I shoot. We'd hunted several times. And I ended up shooting a nice buck. And then it was literally like, I was like, and I can't believe I never thought about this before, but then it was like, how are we going to get this out of here? And this would have been like 2000. I mean, this was like 2006, 2007. So that was my first experience, man. And back then, I don't know why Jeff did this way, but he didn't quarter the animals up. We literally drug that thing off the mountain. and I thought I was gonna die. I
You're
mean,
being a
I
flat.
remember we got to one. Oh yeah, being from Kansas, and now we're up at 8,000 feet. Now we're going to drag this thing down to 6,000 feet, and it's a 2 mile hike. I literally at one point we stopped, and I'm just gulping water out of a stream because I'm dying. And I just looked at Jeff. I was like, I don't think we're gonna get this deer out of here. And so that was my first introduction to what I would say, big game hunting, Western style hunting. But I fell in love with the surrounding. I fell in love with being up in the mountains, being there for that initial sunrise, being there for that sunset, those moments. And I call them kind of trophy moments. To me, that's what I love about hunting is, certainly the harvest is a great aspect of it. But to me, that's not my pinnacle by any means. I've got a trophy wall that runs from left to right, and it's all pictures, of times that I've been out with my kids. Those are my trophies.
Yep.
But that's where it all started. But in the same time, I started because I fell in love with the surrounding. I really got into backpacking. And that was really a big passion of mine where every opportunity I wanted to hit every trail in Idaho. That's not realistic, but that was kind of my mindset is I want to go see this, I want to go see that. And I'm one of those guys when I'm out hiking, it's like, okay, well, I just want to go over the next ridge. I want to see what's over the next ridge. I want to go. It drives my wife crazy, but I'm always wanting to see what's next. And so backpacking became something that I would say I was just super passionate about, fell in love with it. My very first backpacking trip, it was actually a group of us dads, or three of us, and we took, let's see, there would have been my two boys, Ed's three boys, and Randy's two. So we had seven kids, seven boys that we took back in there, and we called it Man Camp. And we hiked up about 2 miles up to an upper lake, and at the time, our kids were all younger. They were probably anywhere from 7 up to about 11. And I mean, you talk about memories, right? Being in the backcountry with kids on the side of a mountain, around a campfire, listening to them talk about passing gas and this, that, and the other, just giggling and laughing. I mean, those are some of the greatest memories. But that very first hunt, as a dad, you're carrying a lot of weight because you're carrying all your kids' weight.
Yep.
And I had the cruddiest gear. I didn't even own a pack. I borrowed a pack. And we got up there, and I had a tent from high school to give you a perspective how old my stuff was. And it poured down rain. And I remember my son Ty. I could feel him shaking in the tent. So I just kind of reached over and I pulled him closer to me. The kid was laying in a dripping, soaking sleeping bag. I mean, he was just soaked head to tail. And we got up the next morning, and I packed out. That pack had to weigh 100 pounds because everything was soaking wet. But at that moment, I knew, okay, gear is super important.
Yes.
That's when the light went off, was on that very first hunt, was okay, gear is super important. And that's where it all started, was that very first Man Camp. We ended up going probably for the next 4 or 5 years with the boys. But long-winded answer to your question, that's where it all started for me. That's where I fell in love with the mountains.
You had me laughing because you literally brought me back in time to my youth. So I just want to throw a couple of my own personal stories on here because you had me rolling. My childhood, I grew up backpacking. And so my very first backpacking trip was when I was 2 years or in second grade. And I hiked one of the sections of the Pacific Crest Trail from Highway 20 in the state of Washington down to Lake Chelan. And on that trip, I just had like a little knapsack because my dad, like you said, you have to carry most of your kids' weight. And I pretty much had my clothes and whatever. And I remember sleeping in a tent that was one of those old like triangle shaped tents with the two poles on one side. Yep. And then, the rain comes. And so what happens if you don't stake it properly, it falls down on you and it's laying on you in the middle of the night. And so you're telling these stories, and I'm like, yep, I know that. Yep, I remember that. And for me, I didn't realize like the importance of gear when it came to backcountry because I was raised in a household where it's like, hey, toughen up, stop being a wimp, just man up. And And as much as there's a lot of pros that come from a mindset that is like just toughen up, um, you're also not always as youthful as you used to be. And I remember I graduated
Right.
college. I'm what, 21 years old, 22 years old, and I take a trip into the backcountry. And I always like to backpack to lakes and go fishing. And I'm sleeping there, and I don't have a sleeping pad. I made it from second grade all the way until like 21, 22 years old, where I slept in a tent with no sleeping pad, just my bag on the ground. And finally, I woke up and I was like, dude, those pine cones, those rocks, that just killed me. I'm freezing cold. I got to get this together and get it figured out. And then from that point on, I actually got a job at REI, and I was like, okay,
There you
I'm,
go.
my paychecks went right back into the company, and I was like, let's do this. Let's get set up. So you're speaking my language, and you just brought me back. I had a just huge reminiscence moment of my childhood, and
That's awesome. Those are good memories, though, man. Those are good memories because it makes you appreciate so much more once you have good stuff, right? At least that's what I keep telling my kids.
yes. And then it just goes to show, like when I put on one of your backpacks this last year for the very first time and packed out an animal, I was like, dude, I have been doing this wrong forever. Not only for a hunting pack, but like I finally found something that fits me, and it
Yeah,
revolutionized uh, my experience, because obviously the whole, there's this mental toughness within the hunting community, the hunting industry of, you know, well, you'll never hear me use the word grind. I don't believe in grinding. I believe that every day is a blessing and an opportunity. And so to say that I'm grinding is like, oh, it doesn't feel good. I think of when you're trying to drive a clutch for the very first time and you're literally grinding gears going and you're just ruining
yeah,
yourself. So I don't like to use the term grind. However, the mental toughness, there's a lot to be said about overcoming. And yet there comes to a point where we're taking vacation days to go in the woods and go hunting, and
that's right.
it's supposed to
Yep,
be this enjoyable aspect, a fun thing, not just we're not living in the pioneer days. We're not doing it because we have to. We're doing it because we want to, because we choose to. And at some point, I want to be comfortable. I don't want to have blisters on my hips. I don't want to have screaming pain down
yeah,
my shoulder blades and my spine because of the cheapness or choices that I've made, or, me being, well, I'm going to just tough it out or be gritty or whatever. And it's like, nah, man, I'm mid 30s now, and I enjoy a comfortable bed and a nice pillow, and, you know, and I want
yep.
to take that into the
There's the
backcountry with me.
absolutely, absolutely. It's funny you say that, man. I just got back, so I was on a 7-day elk hunt with my oldest boy, and I've hunted a lot with Brody. He has been into hunting. I mean, he got his license at 10 years old. I mean, he's just always been an avid hunter. And we have hunted and put so many miles on together and just created so many memories. But to your point, so we're back there. We were on day 5 or 6 on this hunt, and the elk had totally shut down the entire time, just super quiet. We only had one bull that kind of just did a soft chuckle, and that was it. And as I told you, he's kind of dealing with some stuff with this landscape company. So we're just sitting on the side of the mountain, just having a phenomenal conversation. And he just kind of made a comment. He said, "You know what, man? I'm just not having fun."
Mm.
And I just looked at him. We're 8 miles back in, mind you.
It's a long ways.
And I looked at him. I said, "Well, yeah." I'm like, "Well, what would you rather be doing right now?" He goes, "Honestly, I'd rather be crappie fishing." And I just looked at him. I said, "Let's go pack up. Let's go crappie fishing tomorrow." And we packed up. We got out of there, and we went crappie fishing. Had a phenomenal day. I think at times people get so set on what the end goal is, and that's important in life. But if the end goal is all you're caring about, and you're not thinking at all about the journey in between, you miss out on everything.
Hmm.
And to me, at that moment, my goal, yeah, was to harvest an elk. But to me, it was more important to go have fun with my kid catching crappie.
Right.
You know what? There'll be opportunity for me to go back out elk hunting. I may not get that opportunity to go crappie fishing with my son like that again. So I think it's, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, as dads, and just as men, right, to go grind it out. And I'll use that word because I think it's fitting for what we're talking about. And at times you just need to back off the throttle a bit and enjoy kind of what's the blessing in front of you at the moment.
Yeah.
And at that moment, it was for me and my son to go catch some crappie.
Yep. I am a huge. Well, I actually wrote an article about this on my website about the most powerful thing about hunting for new hunters specifically is the journey. Because when we go hiking, or at least this is my own personal experience, which it changes for everyone, I would assume, but my own personal experience is when I went backpacking or hiking, it was like, okay, I'm going to go accomplish this. I'm going to get to this point, and then I'm going
Right.
to get to this point, or I'm going to get to this lake, and then I'm going to come back, and or how many miles can I get done in a day? Well, when it's hunting, it's like if you're constantly focusing on that finish line, you're not going to be successful in any regard because you're going to be missing so much of it. And there's a Hall of Fame football coach from Pacific Lutheran University here up in the state of Washington, Frosty Westering. And goes with my sports background, but Frosty always talked about either you're in the red car or the blue car. And the red car, it looks really fast and shiny, and everyone wants to be in the red car. But the red car is only focused about that end destination, how they look, what's going to be at the end. That blue car is the journey. That blue car can go just as fast, but they're enjoying that drive. They're cruising, they're having a good time. And he always used the analogy. He's like, make sure you stay in the blue car. Make sure you stay in the blue car. And so when I take that into hunting, and this is why I think my platform of mentorship as conservation is missed by a lot of people, is because I think so many people are like, hunting is killing an animal. Hunting is killing an animal. It's
Right.
like it's killing an animal and it's so much else. It's not just killing an
Right.
animal. And so when it comes to mentorship, it is that journey. It is that community, that investing in other people's lives. It's loving people. We're called to love God and love man, and it's my way of loving others in this world by allowing them to have their eyes opened up and them to be able to see the glory of God and what he's created in this world. And I'm just like, how can you guys not get this? Let's go. Let's light a fire. Let's get it going. But I did not have a father, Joe, and I want to commend you for this. I did not have a father that did what you did, to say, where would you rather be right now? What would you rather be doing? And then to say, let's go do it. And if more humans in this world had a heart like you or had a mindset like you, this world would be a better place and a different place. And I want to just acknowledge you for that, because that is huge. And there are people and there are souls in this world that are craving the companionship, the fatherhood, the mentorship of a wiser person to be able to say, okay, you know what? Let's shift gears here. Let's pivot. Let's change our direction. And let's make sure that we're enjoying the process, because life is supposed to be fun. And if it's not fun, we've got to figure out how to get back to it. Because, God, in the Bible, I always throw the Bible back out there. It says, God came to give life, and not just life, but life more abundant. And how do we get to that
Abundantly.
point?
Yep.
And it's all about, pivoting and shifting and constantly inwardly reflecting so that we can get that outward correction and get to where we want to be. And so I don't know if you want to add on to that, but that was you sharing that, man. That also made me want to tear up right there, because I was like, I wish I had that as a father. Here I am, a father of 3 young boys. I'm like, I hope I have the opportunity to give that to them, and pay it forward.
Yeah, I think it's. And I mean, there's certainly been times when I look back, just because my boys are older now. So my youngest is 17, my oldest is 19. And yeah, there's certainly some things that I would do different, Monday quarterbacking it a bit. But I think the one thing that I don't know, I've just always made sure that I put their interests at heart above mine. Same thing with my wife. And to me, once you kind of make that mental shift, and I talked to my son about mental shifts on that side of the mountain discussion we were having. But once you make that mental shift, then the only thing you're going to get out of is enjoyment.
Mm.
Once you're fully committed to that, then the enjoyment comes. If it's like a burden, like, oh, I have to do this, you're not going to enjoy it. So once you make that mental shift, that's when things change.
So, are you going to get back out in the woods with your boy, or is the crappie fishing that's kind of it? And he's satisfied and you're satisfied because you got to spend some time with your boy, or
you know,
what do you view hunting as, or these experiences that you do?
yeah. So I will tell you first and foremost, I am not a great hunter, flat out. I spend a lot of time, in the backcountry, but not as much as I would like to,
Hmm.
right? And that's just you have commitments, right? You have your jobs, your careers, you have your families, you have other hobbies and interests. So it's this balancing act of trying to find out, how do you do all of that? But I would say I fully enjoy my time out there, whatever I'm doing. So yes, I will absolutely be back out hunting. My youngest boy, who really did not get into hunting until the last 2 years, um, he drew a cow elk tag in November. So I'm just stoked. He and I are going to spend Thanksgiving together on the side of a mountain. Um, I did this hunt with Brody probably 3 or 4 years ago, and did the wall tent whole 9 yards and just created some phenomenal memories. I can't wait to go do this with Ty. So we're going to go do that. We're also going to do. I will definitely do over the counter mule deer hunts with Ty. And Dennis and I may sneak away. He was talking like he's going to go back in, and it's kind of the same area that I'm planning on going in as well. So he and I may hook up on a hunt and do that together. So I'll definitely do that this year. So yeah, I've got a couple more, and then there's always the late season archery that we do out here in Idaho. That's also in November. I did that last year solo, and I got to tell you, I'm not one that I've done a lot of solo hunting. I fell in love with it. Oh my gosh, I had so much fun being on the side of the mountain. It was super cold, but just the freedom to kind of do what you want to do, how you want to do it, when you want to do it. It's just a different style hunting that I hadn't experienced a lot of. So there's a good chance I'll probably do that as well. So
Is
I've
it
got some time still left. Yeah,
Yeah, is that for a mule deer or elk?
mule deer.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, get them in that nice
Yep.
cold weather rut action. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, let's shift gears here and let's talk a little bit about the backpack. So you had this experience in Utah. You ended up dragging your deer off the mountain. What led you to meeting Dennis and then being like, "Hey, I like you enough to I got an idea and I might share it with you," or what? How did Initial Ascent even like pop up, and what led it all?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy as I kind of look back on it and how the Lord's kind of opened doors and let us down paths. But rewinding the clock, Dennis and I actually went to the same church, and it was a large church. I don't know total membership attending, but I would say probably north of 500-600 people, maybe more. And so I was actually a greeter at church, and so every Sunday, people come in. I would greet him, Dennis and his wife, and Carrie and the kids, and they would come in and we'd greet him. But that was it. It was hi, welcome, yada yada yada. Well, then, as kind of the years went on, my youngest boy, Ty, was at the age to play flag football. Well, Dennis's boy, Trey, was as well. And just so happened they were ended up being on the same team. And one of the very first practices, I saw Dennis kind of standing over by himself a little bit. And I'm not afraid to go up and talk to anybody. Um, I'm probably quite a bit more outgoing, just by my DNA. And I saw Dennis over there, I recognized him. I'm like, I'm gonna go talk to this guy. So I went over, introduced myself, and he recognized me. There's a buddy of his from high school or college. I'll batch it, but I think they call him like Deo or something. Dennis said I look identical. So every Sunday he was seeing his friend, as he kind of jokes about, but he never told me that story until we got to know each other. So you'll have to have him tell you that story because I'm sure I'm batching that one. But so we just started up a conversation there at kids football practice, and next thing we're meeting, seeing each other a couple times a week, and then you got Saturdays, football games. Well, that just naturally leads to kind of hobbies and things that you like to do. And next thing you know, we're talking about hunting pretty quick. And then I think Dennis and I ended up going and doing a bear hunt together. I think that was our very first hunt. And I took my oldest boy, Brody. I think he took his daughter. Yep, I think she was on there as well. And we were up north hunting, and that just continued. We did that for a couple of years, but during this whole time, Dennis and I we ended up being in a men's group together, and it was a group of us men that got together, and every week we'd get together and just didn't necessarily talk about it was more fellowship, but we would have a discussion on something that was biblically related, and that went on for several years. And I remember one time standing out in the parking lot talking with Dennis, about different stuff. And I had a backpack. And I remember saying to him, man, if this backpack only did this, which was basically, I talked about like the meat shelf would swing the other direction so you could make a chair out of it. I said, man, that would be such a great thing. So you'd have something to lean against and it'd be your backpack without having to carry a chair. And he kind of just half jokingly said, oh, you ought to go invent that. You ought to go do that. I said, we ought to go do it together, just kind of half joking. That was, I would say, the very first conversation, right? And it was just literally a conversation, meant nothing. And, we continued to hunt together, and then it started becoming more of a discussion. Dennis is definitely a gearhead. He's more of a gearhead than I am. I look at things really as how do I make things better? And, there was a point in time back to the waterfowl hunting where I actually started down a path inventing a new decoy where it had a retractable keel to retract the weight. I took that so far, and then I kind of realized, this isn't going to work. And then even as a kid, I can remember growing up in Kansas, we had to go out and scrape the windows, during the wintertime for our parents before they'd go to work. And I can remember thinking, man, if you could only clip something onto these windshield wiper blades, they'd scrape them for you. So I've just always kind of had this innovation in the back of my mind. So you kind of combine that with Dennis and his passion around hunting and gear. It just led to some great conversations that ultimately led to around, he was trying different packs out. I was trying different packs out. And I got a funny story to tell you about that. So going through this whole process, it just led to us nitpicking, saying, well, I like this about this pack, or I like that about this pack. And I can remember I was walking through the airport in Dallas, Texas. And I was literally going from pack to pack to pack, trying different packs out because I just couldn't find the right pack to fit me. And I'm walking in the airport, and you know how busy the Dallas airport is. And I look up and I see a Tenzing bag. And that's all I focus on is this bag. And I'm like, that's a bag I've never tried. And I just literally just asked the person, not even looking at the person, but I was looking at the bag. And I said, how do you like your pack? And I looked up, and it was Jana Waller. And Jana and I had struck up a conversation. And it was, I think that was her first year in with her TV show. And we sat down, we were on the same flight back to Montana or through Salt Lake. I can't remember. But anyways, she and I probably talked for 20, 30 minutes about hunting and about her pack. So, it's just kind of funny how it's a small world. So then anyways, back to your point, I know I'm bouncing on you a little bit.
No, you're totally good.
But that just led to Dennis and I talking about just different pack ideas. And what's that?
Oh, I was going to say, it just goes to show the hunting world is so small. Everyone knows somebody, and we're all connected so quickly. So it's funny. I was actually going to reference her earlier in our conversation about the whole life is now. It's about living. That's her big slogan and statement. So that just ties that in together from what you were talking earlier, and now you see her in the airport. So go ahead, get back on with the Dennis story. I love that.
Yeah. So so we just, we started going every year as a family to the Western Hunt Expo. So I would go, Dennis and his family would go, my family would go. We probably did that for 3 or 4 years. And each time we would go to that show, Dennis and I just kept thinking more and more and talking more about, man, we could really do something different that's just never been done before. And so we kind of towed into it at the beginning, honestly, Johnny. We weren't fully committed. I had some connections over at Boise State University based on the decoy. We started having conversations with them. And we actually took it over a couple year period. We got to a working prototype. And this would have been up in 2016. That was the same year Dennis and I were scheduled to go to New Zealand on a once in a lifetime type hunt. So we actually made the decision. This was a foolish decision, but it worked out. We actually made the decision. We were going to get 2 prototype frames made up, and we were not going to take any other packs with us on a trip to New Zealand. So, I mean, foolish, right? But so we did. I mean, we hodgepodge together these packs. We had a frame. We had no hip belts, no shoulder straps. We're robbing Peter to pay Paul to kind of build a couple packs up. And we literally go off to New Zealand to test out our prototype frames because we knew we had to get the foundation right. We knew everything was built on that, no differently than we built our faith, our families. We knew we had to have the foundation right. Otherwise, it's just another bag. It's just another pack. And so we get over there, and I ended up harvesting. Well, we both did, but I harvested a stag, and that was the first animal that we packed off the mountain, and it was pretty epic to be able to put a stag on your pack, get it off the mountain, and realize, okay, we got something here. It was a huge milestone for us. So we came back. That was March of 2016. We're at the show February 2017, right? Just visiting his family. He's going to the Western Hunt Expo. And I literally, during the show, went over, unbeknownst to Dennis at the time, I signed us up for a 10 by 20 booth. And I came back and said, we got a year to figure this out. And
yes. I love that.
At that point, we didn't have shoulder straps. We didn't have hip belt. We didn't even have a bag. But we knew we had to get that frame right. So that year, oh my gosh, we burned the midnight oil like you cannot imagine. And we worked, again, back to we talked about earlier, we surround ourselves with some fantastic people. Our engineer that does all of our frames is one of the most amazing individuals. I can't tell you how many times I was talking to him at 12:30, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, as he's trying to figure out the recipe for our frame. That's a whole nother discussion. But, we spent so much time on that. And then that year, we busted our butts, got to a position where we walked in February 8th, 2018. Nobody knew who we were. We didn't tell anybody about this. We showed up, got a 10 by 10 booth at the expo. And here we are. We launched the company that day. And it just kind of never looked back. It's just been an unbelievable experience ever since.
I love that.
So
I love
that's kind
that.
of the backdrop to how it all came around.
That is so awesome. And I think one of the huge takeaways in that story is when you give yourself a deadline, be like, this is the day we're going to do it. And I think so many people forget that. I have a buddy of mine, my buddy Jeff. I'm throwing him under the bus right here. Jeff, you're listening. You still owe me an article for the website, you dirty dog. But the whole thing is, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. One of his 7 habits is begin with the end in mind. And so you have to know when you need to be ready to go and then work backwards from it. And, the countdown's on. So that's awesome. The fact that you took the leap of faith and you said, all right, we're launching next year at this show. That is phenomenal. Phenomenal. And you're a young company. You've only been around, what is it, 3 years, 4 years? What is it? 2018, you said?
Yeah, I mean, we launched in 2018. Yeah, yeah. So I guess this would be our third year. So yeah, we're just finishing up. Yeah, yeah. It's amazing, man, that we are only that young. Just it feels like and the reason why it feels like is we started this conversation back in 2015,
Hmm.
right? So I mean, we've been at this for a long time. We spent 3+ years just working on that frame to get it right. But yeah, I mean, that's when we launched February 8th, 2018, there at the Western Hunt Expo in Salt Lake.
Was it when so I've only been to the Hunt Expo one time, and it was the first year I ever went. I was a seminar speaker, and that's where I got familiar with your guys'
Okay.
packs, and I got plugged in with Steve Opat, and just, I was like a kid in a candy shop at the expo for the very first time. I was there all 4 days because I presented on Thursday and on Sunday, and so I had all these days to just kind of wander around and record podcasts and shake hands, rub elbows. I couldn't imagine going from being an everyday end user, a shopper, someone who's just going to the expo to check it out, to all of a sudden you're a part of the show. What was that like? Because I could only imagine that you had to have some butterflies rolling through your stomach on that day when you were getting ready for that.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those moments where it's just kind of like you just don't know what to expect, right? I mean, I've done a lot of shows in my career, but it's different when it's yours, right? It's just different. So, especially with us not doing a soft launch or anything, nobody knew who we were. It was Dennis and I, that was it. And, we walked in there and surprisingly, I thought we had a pretty dang good booth, for being newbies, if you will. And I can remember early on just, we had a lot of people asking questions. One of the questions was like, another backpack company, really? And, there was a lot of backpack companies back then, that were trying new things out in the market. But yeah, definitely some butterfly moments, uncertainty. But I remember the very first day, we didn't have a single sale. We took inventory to sell. We always have. Um, the show, I want to say, closed at 7 o'clock at night. We got our very first sale at 6:50 p.m.
Yeah.
And it was like, yes, I mean, it was just like, oh man, it was so much excitement. And then last time the show was, so 20, I guess it would be what, 2019 now. So was that the last show we had? No,
Yep.
2020.
2019. Yep.
So I had the opportunity and privilege. The gentleman that I sold that pack to came in the booth, and I got to take a picture with him and shake his hand and say, "Hey, listen, you didn't know this at the time, but you were our very first customer." And yeah, I've actually got that picture now, and it means a lot to me. But yeah, what a neat experience. But lots of butterflies, lots of questions, lots of uncertainty, lots of unknowns. Um, but man, it's been fun. It's
Yeah.
been a lot of fun.
Well, speaking about your backpacks, I just want to add to this because I used to sell backpacks at REI. I've done multiple miles on these different trips, and when I put on your backpack, it is different than any other pack on the market. And not necessarily it like you said, it's not so much about the bag per se, but that frame and how it
Yep.
sits on you, the way it feels and the way it carries weight is different, and no one else is touching that in the market. And for all you listeners out there, I don't necessarily want to describe it too much because I want you to go check it out for yourself. I wrote a gear review about the backpack. Last year, I had the pleasure of being a part of the Brotherhood of the Traveling Pack. And I was one of the
That's awesome.
recipients of the Brotherhood of the Traveling Pack. And after I used it and I got to pack out a black bear, I think it was like 7 miles into the backcountry. And I was like, dude, this is phenomenal, because all the different packs I've ever used were like two mainstays on the either side or like plastic guide rods or whatever it was. And they always hurt. You could never adjust it enough to make it comfortable. And I guess at the end of the day, like, people don't realize how much you guys put into the pack, because a lot of people are ignorant when it comes to this. And they're like, oh, it's another backpack. But it's not. And
Right.
and what you guys have done is completely different than what anyone else has done in the industry. And I want to commend you on that. And I want to push people to go check out Initial Ascent backpacks and see for yourself, because the what I'm losing my words. What is it? The proof is in the pudding. You can look at
Right.
a pack and you can be like, okay, well, that's cool looking, or I like the way it looks, or I like the features. But until you put it on, that's when the magic happens and the game changes. So that first customer of yours, do you stay in contact with him? Has he ever written to you guys or been like, hey, I got to pack out an animal with the very first one, or keep tabs on it?
So I got to talk to him at the show, and he just rant and raved about how much he loves the pack, and he started selling it to other people in the booth. I mean, we were so busy. It was funny, people around. He's a tall guy. I didn't remember how tall he was, but I bet he's probably a good 6'4", 6'5". And he starts, telling people about the bag and how great it is, and on and on and on. So it was just neat, kind of getting to see him and interact with him a little bit and just thank him. But yeah, I think, as I think about the design of our frame, which we spent so much time on, Johnny, we had to get that right. And you're right, there is nothing like it on the market. Um, the way we designed that frame was to really transfer that weight off your shoulders and to drive it into your hips, because that's just such a power source down there. And you just carry the weight so much better there. It's so much more comfortable. Brian Call, Gritty, he would tell you, as that thing gets heavier, it gets more comfortable. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And that's the way that frame is designed to be able to transfer that weight into the hips. So we're very excited about it. There's a lot of innovation that goes into it. People don't realize, but for us to make one frame from start to finish, cradle to grave, it's over an hour process.
Wow.
Um, there's a lot of technology that goes into that frame. It's not bending metal, it's not stays, it's literally a layering process, and then we infuse and inject resin into it, um, to be able to accomplish what we want to with that. And that's to really give you an extremely comfortable fit and feel with heavy loads. And that's what a backcountry hunter does. Um, and you need that so that you can recover quickly. That's one of the things Brian also talks about, is this system allows him to recover quickly. This is a guy that's spending, I don't know how many days out, but he goes out for 30 days at a time, right?
Right.
And to be able to do that kind of hunting, if we can help improve that experience, improve that recovery time, it's just going to make your trip so much more enjoyable. And that's exciting for us, right? That's the joy. That's what we want out of this.
I got to tell you, hearing you say what Brian says about your pack, about the heavier it gets, the more comfortable it gets, it kind of pisses me off. It's like it's the greatest curse of your backpack, is because you when the pack's on, you're like, oh man, this is great, and then when you're slinging it from the ground to your shoulder, or from your shoulder to the ground, you're like, why am I carrying so much weight? But you don't notice it when it's actually on your body. And, it's a day hunt. And I'm like, dude, why is my pack like 25 pounds? And it's like, oh, I gotta figure this out. This is not working for me anymore. So I love
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
That is a huge compliment for you and your pack. What would you say to all the people who are listening to this podcast and they have an idea, they have a thought in their head or something stirring in their soul, where they want to contribute, they want to break into the industry, they have these thoughts, these desires? What words of advice would you say to them? Because everyone, it seems like in the world of Instagram and social media, it seems like everyone wants to break into the hunting industry, but no one actually wants to go through the effort and the challenges, and it takes a lot of work. And you said it was started in 2015,
Yeah.
2015. Yeah.
2015.
I mean, that's a
Yep.
long process before you even launched and hit the market. So what words of advice do you have for those people?
Yeah. So several things come to mind. I think first and foremost, and this is a must, it's not just passion. It's passion, on steroids for what you're doing, because you are going to hit those walls where you just want to give up. It's just too much, right? It's one thing when you're putting in, 40, 50 hours for your day job, but then when you double that and you put 50, 60 hours in for your hobby business,
Right.
I mean, it's really going to test you. And I would say, so that's the passion has to be so big and so strong to drive your commitment to be able to go do this. If you are married, make sure your partner, your wife, your spouse is 100% behind you, because you are going to pull away time, energy, focus from the family to go drive this. And if you don't have that alignment with your spouse, it's not going to end well.
Mm.
So I would highly encourage you to do that. The other thing I would say is there is no easy button, flat out. The only easy button is failure, right? Just go out and fail as much as you can and don't do anything other than learn from it, because you are going to fail over and over and over and over again. But one of the things that's a motto that I have within my family, and I'm actually getting t-shirts made up, they don't know this, but basically all it says is figure it out. And that's really what you have to do a lot of times is you're going to hit a wall. Okay, let's figure it out. We're going to hit another wall. Okay, let's figure it out. And I think if you kind of have that mindset, and then I would say the last thing, and this has been a blessing that I had no idea would actually occur within this industry. But I will tell you this, the hunting industry, in my opinion, is the most accepting, embracing industry I've ever been around in my life. The people within this space are phenomenal people. Yes, you've got some bad apples, but put that aside. We have been able to partner with individuals, build relationships. Johnny, great example. Us, having this call tonight. You know, that to me, it's really just been so eye-opening for companies to just say, hey, I'll help you with that. And
Mm.
there is no expectation of a return. I can remember very, very early on, somebody that we share a common friendship with, Jules McQueen. Early on, Jules McQueen, I mean, early on, we're talking 2018, maybe 2019. And it's a very, it's an interesting story how we met Jules. But she was so open to us, so willing to help us, that I put her up on a high, high pedestal. She is a phenomenal person. And being able to connect with people like that, being able to connect with like Butch, owner of Cryptech,
Mm-hmm.
and just his willingness, Cheston with phones. I mean, there's just name after name after name after name within this space that we've been able to network with, and they've been willing to help. I look forward to the day, and we kind of had a little bit of a taste of this year at Mountain Archery Fest, where we actually had companies coming to us that were new saying, how do you do this? How do you do that? And what a blessing to be able to say, hey, man, here's some ideas, here's some thoughts. And to be able to give back and to be able to now be on the giving end versus the receiving end, it's awesome. It's awesome. So I think, as I step back and say, hey, what are some words of advice? I think if you could kind of focus on those 3 or 4 or 5 things, and just get back up, do it again.
Oh
Just you're gonna
man.
fail. You're just flat out gonna fail.
I second everything you said to a T, because a couple things I just want to add there. Number one, you hit my mission. One of my missions is you can't outgive good. When you just put good out into the world, it just naturally comes back to you. And like you're saying, it's like there's so many people that want to help and are willing to help. The issue is that you got to put yourself out there. You got to, my
Yeah.
brother, he told me this back in high school. I had dating problems. I couldn't get a girlfriend or a girl to go out with me. I was like, bro, I asked a girl out. She said no. I'm really bummed. He's like, hey, man, well, how many girls have you asked out? I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, say you got a 30% chance that a girl's going to say yes. He goes, you need to ask out 10 chicks. You got 3 girls, 3 dates. And I was like, huh. He goes, ask out 100. You got 30 girls that will go out with you. And I was like, okay, I see where your head's at. And the point is that so many people are afraid to get told no. And so when you talk about your
Yeah.
T-shirt and the creed, figure it out. I had a parent-teacher conference this morning before school started, and the parent was telling me about, and this is a problem with public education, I just, it drives me nuts. The parent is sitting next to this child, their own child, saying, telling me as their teacher, saying, hey, can you text me and email me what schoolwork my kid is missing? And I am teaching virtually, which the parent has access to the entire curriculum, the grade book, everything. It is live, up to date. And I'm like, well, do you have access to the curriculum? Do you have, you can see every assignment your child's not turning in? And they're like, oh, yeah, yeah. Well, can you text me? And I think the issue is right there is that everyone wants this fast food world. They want instant gratification. They don't want to go through the process themselves. And that also goes into this whole mentorship as conservation platform, is that everyone wants to just get to that end result. They want to kill the animal. They want to have a picture with the antlers. They want to put the head on the wall or whatever it is. And there's so much to be learned. There's life to be lived and things to be able to experience. And life is all about that experience. And so, man, I don't think we could wrap up a podcast any better than that, but just figure it out. Pause, be still, reflect, and work through it. So many times people don't hold their own knowledge anymore in this world. They go to other resources. Advocating for yourself is one thing, but the kids raise their hand in class. Mr. Mac, blah, blah, blah. What's the answer to this? I'm like, well, did you even look into the book? Because it's in the book. And they're like, oh, yeah. The point is like, you gotta think for yourself. No, people are not going to hold your hand. No one's going to come save you. No, you got to be the hero of your own life. And Joe, you inspired me tonight. You lit my fire even more. You stoked it. It's time to get it going. And I got a renewed sense of passion for Washington backcountry and the Soulful Hunter tonight. So thank you, my brother. I really appreciate that.
Hey, that's awesome. This was so much fun. We got to do this again at some point if it's just catching up, man. I thoroughly enjoyed getting to visit with you tonight and hearing some of your stories and swapping stories back and forth. So good times. Appreciate it a bunch. Thanks for
Oh,
having me on.
absolutely. Hey, and where can people go to find Initial Ascent packs, and how can they connect with you guys if they have any questions or want to follow along?
Yeah, I mean, so probably the best route, just go to our website, initialascent.com. And we just launched a new website this past week. It's turned out amazing. So that's up and running right now. We've got tons of videos in the video library there on questions. We do a pack fitting video that I would highly recommend, whether you're buying our pack or somebody else's pack. Do yourself justice. Go check out that video so you make sure you get a proper fit. And you can check us out we're on Instagram as well and Facebook. So feel free to reach out to us through any of those platforms. And one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is our customer service. We want to make sure that when you put that pack on your back and you head out in the backwoods, whether it's your first time or your 100th time, that pack is fitting you properly and that you have a great experience. So we will do whatever it takes to make sure that you do. We're here for you guys in any way that we can. So just let us know what we can do, and we'll help out.
I love it. Well, I can't wait to be at the Western Hunt Expo this coming February. I'm actually going to be presenting a seminar once again, and I actually might be doing a combo seminar with Jana Waller. We are in the middle of trying to figure out what our topic potentially could be. However, I'm really excited to see there, rock my Initial Ascent pack, come to the booth, maybe record some podcasts and hang out. But Joe, you are an amazing human. Dennis, your partner, is an amazing human. I am honored to be in community with you guys. All you listeners, I'm going to tell you right now, if you are in need of a backpack, you need to get an Initial Ascent pack. You will not be disappointed. And there is a lot of benefits to the pack, not only for hunting, but for everything else. And don't let any of the price tags in this hunting industry scare you, because you always get what you pay for. And you can go buy something at Walmart and save a ton of money over that one season, but season after season after season, you're going to be buying that product over and over and over. And so you might as well buy it right the first time. Buy her once, cry once. And I'm a proponent of Initial Ascent. Everybody, thank you so much, Joe. Thank you so much. God bless you, brother. Stay strong. Fight the good fight of faith. Hold on to eternal life with Christ Jesus. It's called for us, baby. Let's go. Let's change this world. Ladies and gentlemen, stay strong. Remember that life is happening for you. It does not happen to you. Freedom on. And as always, stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.